And this is a question for the YouTube user DesertPhile.
I was young, I needed the money, I don't do it anymore.
Over the past few years, he's made several videos about other YouTubers who have claimed to make over-unity devices or magnetically powered motors, and they need funding to help them. While I agree with DesertPhile on many of the points he's made, such as a magnet does not contain energy, it contains a force, therefore building a device to extract energy out of an object which doesn't contain it is pointless and impossible.
All true, pointless and impossible, which makes me kind of wonder why the government isn't funding it.
It goes against the entire rules of the universe and the laws of physics. However, what happens if I said to you that I have found a way to make energy from one of the most simplest things on the planet? Something that we have in an abundance. No processing needed to turn it into petrol or gasoline as it's called in America. You simply drop the substance straight into a fuel tank and you're ready to go. Impossible? Not really. Because this is the substance I'm talking about. It's rubbish, or garbage if you're American.
Certainly, certain types of trash can be converted into a fuel. Of course, we can burn it. We can burn it and produce steam by using water or sewage, and then the steam can drive a turbine. We can convert it into some other form, such as taking plastic bottles and converting it back into a petroleum product. The problem is, doing the latter is a endothermic reaction, so that it requires more energy to do that than what the finished product would be worth. If you have a different system that will do that and it's ectothermic, if it produces more energy than what the process requires, then of course you have a really good deal.
No fancy conversion needed to turn it into energy because it's already there. And I know what most of you are thinking. It's a large claim for someone who hasn't shown any of his inventions so far. Well, that's because none of my original inventions would favour very well on the open market. They're only designed to solve specific tasks around the home that would help me. However, this invention is so simple that it can be implemented anywhere. In your car, in your motorcycle if you have one, even in your own home to generate electricity for your toaster or your bathtub.
I get it, a trash-powered bathtub.
Now I know what you're thinking. Where is this device? Well, currently, it's sitting on my workbench over there. Why am I not showing it to you? Well, the reason for that is I don't want to go into detail about it because I plan to actually sell this device.
Indeed, if your process or your device does what you claim it does, if it takes rubbish, or as you say, our American pals say, trash, and it converts it into a usable form of energy, and if it's not a noxious form of energy, if it does not produce a terrible pall of pollution or toxic waste, if it can power something efficiently, then of course I would be interested. I'm sure the rest of the planet would be interested. So produce it and sell it.
This one was actually developed for the open market, also to reduce our waste on the streets. I find digging holes in the ground and just shoveling stuff into it to hide it is a really terrible way to get rid of rubbish. Using this method we can turn it into fuel. You'd have less rubbish on your streets. You might have no rubbish on your streets.
I don't know if you're aware that the United States has a terrible trash crisis. For the past 15 years or so, we have run out of places to put our trash. A hell of a lot of trash refuse from the United States is dumped into the Atlantic Ocean and also into the Pacific Ocean. You know the Pacific Ocean trash gyre that is up in the North Pacific, and it's a big, huge, massive trash vortex made up of particulate matters, mostly plastic bags and plastic bottles and styrofoam. If your device could cure the need to dump our trash into the oceans because all that trash is coming back to bite us on the ass, then of course you'd be a multi-billionaire at the very least. Yes, build it, sell it.
That means you'd be buying your fuel along with your food for almost nothing. So, my question is this, DesertPhile. Do you believe my claims, or do you need more proof?
And my answer is neither. I do not believe it, nor do I disbelieve it. I hold the null hypothesis. I have not rejected your claim. I have not accepted your claim. I have not seen any evidence to give me any idea if your claim is true or false. So I, in my head, will refrain from making any conclusion, positive or negative. And of course, as for proof, I reject the very concept of proof. The best that people can do is disprove a claim. We can never prove a claim. So my answer is, I'm sorry to say, null.
And if so, how much more proof? To everyone else, feel free to leave a comment, whether it be good or bad. I read all the comments and I will try to respond to all of them, whether they are good or bad. This is DannyS, signing off.
You asked a good question, except I would not use the word proof, I would use the word evidence. So that is why I am making this reply video. You asked what evidence would DesertPhile accept, or other people accept, to tentatively accept that your device does what you say it does. That is not a valid question. A person with makes a statement or has a device that person says the device can do this and this and this and this. That person, it is not valid for him or her to go out and say, what evidence do you need to see before you will tentatively accept my claims for my device? It is not a valid question. You don't go out and ask people what evidence is required before they will accept it. What you do is you produce all the evidence that you can think of to convince other people that your device does what you say it does. If you ask other people a priori what evidence would be required, then you are poisoning the well. You are excluding what other evidence might be available, and you are including types of evidence that may not apply to your device. So what you do is you build your device, you show it functioning in front of skeptics, and then they will determine what sort of evidence might apply to your device. You can't just right up front ask what that evidence is, because there's absolutely no way at all for anybody to answer that question. You can give some of the basics. Your device would need to be exothermic. That is, the energy that goes in would have to be less, whatever process your device does, would have to be less going in than what comes out. If it requires more energy to produce the process of your device than your device produces output, why bother? It's not worth it. Unless it somehow solves the trash problem. If low emissions, not toxic, like I already mentioned. So, I hope that answers the question. To stress it again, it is not valid to ask anybody what evidence would sway that person. You have to produce all the evidence that you can think of to sway that person, and then ask that person, well, is this valid evidence? Is this enough evidence? Are you tentatively convinced? Then you could ask, what other evidence that applies to my process or my device would you think would make my claims stronger, defend my claims better? But just right out of the gate, impossible. Sorry. Anyhow, produce your device, I'll buy one if it does what you say it does. If it doesn't cost too much. Meanwhile, I'm going to sit here and drink more rubbish. It's an American thing.